Well, that'll get your blood pumping. It is insanely dramatic, I know, but considering what's happening out west, we've got some significant severe weather potential that's brewing for our area. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a little bit of a rough evening tomorrow. So, what's the reason for the intense music? Because we've got intense storms out in Oklahoma. And in fact, did you know that the HRRR from yesterday, the 18Z and the 0Z, did not, I repeat, did not have storms in northwest Oklahoma? Now, I know you guys have questions. If you have some questions, I'll try to get to them. Let me tell you this, first of all. I've been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes today. A lot of cameras went down. We had to get them updated. Number two, we had to reboot all the computers. I know you're seeing the streaming computer glitch. We're working on getting new computers eventually, but we've got to talk about this severe weather risk tomorrow. But before we do, we're going to take a look here at what we've got cooking off to our west. Some significant severe weather, tornado warnings that are still in progress, and there's been a storm that has impacted basically the areas that the movie Twister and Twisters was filmed. So you've got literally the gas station from the scene when Glenn Powell and the tornado wrangler comes around and meets all the other storm chasers, and they make fun of Arkansas storm chasers in that Twisters video. Yeah, so Wichita did not get hit. The tornado was south of Wichita. We'll take a look at that. We'll show you all the information. Let's go to Mega Doppler, shall we, and bring up the radar as we bring up Mega Doppler full, and you'll get to see the base reflectivity definitely showing some active weather. So first of all, I want to kind of take you through some of these details on this storm. So first of all, this is the tornado that was reported, several of them. There were several tornadoes, not only tornadoes, but considerable tornadoes. So we're talking some pretty substantial tornadoes. One that was south of Wichita, and we're going to go back in time here on the Mega Doppler loop. So I got to get a different keyboard. We'll go back over here. I'm going to go back in time to when this radar information started to change. So first of all, you're going to notice a couple of things, and this is going to be important for tomorrow. We can do what's called split screen, where we have radar, reflectivity on one side, we have velocity on the other side. So this gives us an idea on the two storms at the same time. That black area that you see that surrounds the outline of the tornado, what that is that's called a confirmed tornado. So here at the top of the screen, underneath the banner, you're going to see different types of tornado warnings. You've got a confirmed tornado, and then at the same time, you've got a strong tornado. Now, that strong tornado shows very, very intense circulation, and you can see the radar detected TDS, which stands for tornado debris signature. And if we look at our CC, you can actually see that tornado debris signature located right here as we go back in time. So the tornado is located right here. And if we look at, I love this view, and this is an example of how basically our graphics are going to change with the banner. And you won't find this anywhere else on GR2 Analyst. If you're looking for how can we get the products to change as we're changing the products on the radar, that is some computer programming expertise that my friend Denton did. So Denton Sachs, D-Sachs as I like to call him. There's the debris signature, and you can see that literally shows up on the radar as our tornado debris detector. This is called the PTDS. That lists northward. Then the storm cycle. So let's show you kind of some of the stuff that's happening. So velocity, inbound velocity in the green shaded areas, outbound velocity in the red shaded areas. This tornado went dangerously close to the radar. Radar located right about here, runway just to the east of the radar. You can see it on your radar screen. This is the circulation right here. And that is only, you ready for this? 117 feet above the ground, the radar is measuring these wind velocities. So some pretty impressive shear and some pretty impressive rotation on this storm as it lifts to the north. Now, what's interesting is this took a very sharp jog to the north and then maybe even a little bit to the northwest before it started to get choked off. At this point, people were mentioning how Wichita was going to be hit. Yeah, there was a circulation, but it ramped up back to the south. This is called mesocyclogenesis. and there's the new tornado that's developing. So what happens is you have an occlusion of the inflow from the rear flank downdraft, and that combines with the forward flank that creates your rotation. And then look at this circulation, extremely strong circulation. We look at the NROT, you can see it right there. Tornado possible and then tornado likely. And then if we look at this, the CC, you can see the debris signature. Sometimes this debris could be a little noisy, like here. You'll notice a bunch of blue. Not all blue colors are tornadoes. It's only when they're co-located with the velocity. So if we do a split screen here on all four, you've got the reflectivity, you've got the velocity, you've got NROT, and then you've got the CC, the correlation coefficient. And if we do this, you got correlation coefficient and PTDS. So you can literally switch those two. And the PTDS is, again, this. As we look at, it's essentially the debris signature. So there it is right there. You can see that debris showing up. That's exactly where the tornado was. And this is about 7 miles south of Wakita. Then the tornado continues. It becomes a considerable tornado, and then it lifts northeastward. Now, look, this is a strong, strong circulation. Check this out. That is very impressive, almost borderline violent tornado. If we look at the T-def, it doesn't really show because it's not able to get the depth of the tornado. So this basically is a tornado definition project that will show how strong the tornado is by how high the debris is lofted. And then the storm starts to weaken. The tornado warning gets dropped. We look at the velocity image. It's still going. In fact, there's 2 circulations that are going on. So this was a highly conducive environment to tornado potential. And guess what? We've got a similar environment coming our way tomorrow. So I want to kind of show you all of that stuff just before we dive into everything that we're going to talk about here. But before we do, we've got to let you know about Weather Call Next Gen, because I'm going to do this again as we give a giveaway. And I'll let this go about 10 minutes or so. Let me show you what we've got. This is it right here, our last Weather Call giveaway. So this is what you're going to do. Type in Weather Call for the comments for your chance to win a free yearly subscription of Weather Call Next Gen. And the good news is that this is only $1 a month, $12. That's it, a year. And so we'll be able to see that. Let me show you what we've got here as we take a look. Yeah, I do know that. I know. I can remove that very easily by the push of a button, Denton. So in case you're wondering, clock has to be up. We'll leave it up. Popping in and out, that's not a big deal. But anyways, hashtag weather call. That's what you're going to comment in the comments. And we've already got the giveaway tool ready to go. So we're seeing the entries increase. Now, before we get into all the severe weather details, I've got to show you what Weather Call is. If you're new to this and you don't know, we're going to take a look at this with Max 1. So Weather Call Next Gen. This is a subscription service. It's not an app. It's a subscription service. But essentially what it'll do is it will let you know if a storm is coming your way. That's the QR code to scan. You can see multiple QR codes. Before the storm, this is the time to do it. So this allows so many things to help you out. Number one, it allows hyper local alerts. So let's say you're at the Razorbacks gymnastics meet, okay? And you're sitting there and you got to do hashtag weather call. I see some people commenting just weather call. It's got to be a hashtag. That way the giveaway tool can get your subscription. If you try putting it in multiple times, it's not going to work. It's only going to pick out one. So hashtag weather call. But someone was asking about the gymnastics meet. Like, when is the gymnastics meet? And, that's going to be a problem because the potential for severe weather in Bud Walton Arena, what time will the tornado hit? We don't know what time the tornado is going to hit and if it's going to hit Bud Walton Arena, but the time of this is going to be between about 7 to 9 o'clock. We'll take a look at timing a little bit more. But this also, let's say a tornado touches down during a warning. Then it'll give you another call and let you know that a tornado is confirmed. I really do love this service. And you know me, I'm a big a stickler on accuracy, precision, and it takes all the guesswork out. So let's say a tornado warning gets issued for Western Washington County. not even close to Bud Walton Arena, and the storm is moving north. It will be not affecting Fayetteville, but the warning will go off on your phone. The warning will go off on your weather radio, but you won't get a call, and you're thinking, this isn't working. Well, you're not within the polygon. So it's been tried, it's been tested, it's been proven. Also, extreme thunderstorm alerts. We could have storms that have over 80 miles per hour winds, and calls to landline phones, rural locations. How about that? If you don't have a great cell service. I mean, Cincinnati, the tornado that touched down December 31st, 2010, not many people knew about it because the apps aren't allowing it, and this saved lives in the middle of weather call. So we'll talk about safety and all that stuff. So Weather Call Next Gen, the thing to do to sign up. I'm going to give you a little bit of time, then we'll give away the giveaway, then you don't have to subscribe. If we already subscribe, is it Next Gen? Yes. If you have, Next Gen is the new service. It's basically, it kind of advances and let's just say it made it a little bit better. It made it improved, new and improved, if you will. But if you do subscribe to Weather Call, you can upgrade to Weather Call Next Gen if you haven't already. So, all right, we'll be doing that giveaway in a second. Let's take a look at all of the information. And by the way, just because I love you guys and me myself wants to see the new update, I will be staying here, and we will be doing this live stream all the way until the new update is released around midnight. So that's about an hour. I can do it. I can stay up. So let's take the radar off the screen. We'll leave all that up. Sign up, hashtag weather call. Here's a look at the satellite and radar with this cold front that's lifted northward as a warm front, and we got a dry line off to the west. So, wow, a whole bunch going on with the surface map. And you'll notice that there's the storms off to the northwest, and they're not going to impact us. Now, there could be additional energy that pops up storms over northwest Arkansas, but we just really don't have the ingredients right now. So that's good news. But we'll bounce back to this dry line, and you're going to see over time how this dry line is going to move eastward. And if you've seen this all on the weather forecast, then I apologize, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate how this evolved, how this setup is going to evolve. So dry line, look at the deep moisture that's starting to surge in from the Gulf. This will have more than ample time with the low-level jet to make it northward into northwest Arkansas and the river valley. So here's the severe weather threat now, okay? And I want to do this because this is interesting. We're zooming way in, okay? And you're going to see Cherokee, and let's go even more in, Pond Creek and Medford and Cherokee and Waukeeta. Here's Waukeeta. Well, we know there was a tornado south of Waukeeta, right? But if we zoom out, look, it doesn't even show that within the orange area. So rule number one, folks, don't just look where the colors are and where the colors are worst and think that you're out of the path or the risk of tornado potential, because you're not. This is just a guesstimate, but it maybe the coverage would be a lot less. It doesn't mean the threat is any less. Now watch this. If we put the hatched area, look at the National Weather Service just rocking it out. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center. This is a perfect example of the upgrade to the risks and how important that was. Because guess what? They could only put for the hatched area down here, the 10% hatched. Well, guess what? That doesn't tell the story for northwest Oklahoma with this hatched area saying the probability of possible, the maximum intensity expected could be EF2 tornadoes. Now, I'm seeing some comments on social media saying that they were really mad about how we were saying we're hyping it up. We're saying EF2. We're not saying there's going to be an EF2. We're just saying if tornadoes would develop, that would essentially be what the maximum intensity would be. So you can see how that shows up as SIG EF2 plus. So the strength of the tornadoes. And I would agree with a considerable tornado, you're getting strong to high-end strong. So depending on what it hits. I know there's been damage. I'm not really covering the damage, but look at how amazing they did. For the hail threat, they have the hatched area. They have supercells all the way up there. I'm telling you, these upgrades are really, really, really going to help. Now, let's go into the day 2 outlook. But before we do, we got to show you the dry line that's going to be surging east. So there's 2 things that are going to be happening tomorrow. The dry line will set up. There will be a prefrontal trough that will be ahead of it. And that's going to be a focusing mechanism for thunderstorms, oftentimes way ahead of the actual dry line. So here's the dry line. Look at this, 61 dew point in Oklahoma City, 16 in Amarillo. If you get a 20-degree dew point drop over 100 statute miles, you have a dry line. And this is exactly what we've got. And I think it might be 60 statute miles, to be honest with you, the actual definition of a dry line. At the same time, you got a cold front moving in. So if we were to draw this on a frontal boundary, here's the dry line, and then here's the cold front. So what's going to happen over time is the cold front's going to drop south, catching up with the dry line. And on the leading edge of the dry line, this is where you're going to see your significant severe weather potential, right in here. In fact, you can see the models are breaking out storms well out ahead of the dry line. That's because of the amount of energy that moves in. Then we get the frontal boundary that will push through, and at this point, it becomes a damaging wind threat with QLCS tornado potential. And you can see that over parts of northwest Arkansas. Then, as it drops south, you can see the way that front is going to move through, and then the severe weather threat has come to a screeching halt. So here's the forecast for tonight. Tonight could be an isolated shower, not really looking at a whole lot of activity. Overnight tonight, really not a whole lot. Maybe, I think, a few thunderstorms that will be knocking on our doorstep that will be very, very close. And so that will bring the potential for some severe weather. And then as we go throughout our Friday afternoon, we've got storms starting to ramp up. Now, I know there's been a lot of questions about timing. Timing has been a big concern, and rightfully so. I get it, because people want to know what's going to happen. But if you're looking at your apps, even our app, we learned this today. So we forecast for Fayetteville and Fort Smith. Those are the two areas that we're trying to update. But the problem is the computer model takes over for any of those other surrounding cities. So when a model doesn't show precipitation ahead of time, but yet we're calling for it because we know about the Baja blast energy, how much energy there could be moving in, how storms will develop a little bit earlier, that is exactly why essentially we don't say exactly when these storms will happen, but instead we give a timing window. So let's take a look here, what we've got. This is a perfect graphic for everyone that's asking about, including, here's one right here. Mari Nails is saying, are we going to nail the timing on this? See what I did there? We're going to see the potential for severe weather, so we'll get to that on Max 1. And this is the graphic from a Storm Prediction Center. You might be not seeing this everywhere because we have access to this, but this is essentially an amazing graphic that really none of the information is being covered up. But this is the timing, and this is the timing window. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to roll over to the Max 1 computer as the camera follows me, okay? And we'll take a look here. Camera follows me over here, and I'm going to show you what we're talking about. So here's the storm, and here's the risk. 8 a.m. to 4 a.m., the typical time frame for this system. You'll notice here that the red line starts peaking up as we go into about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when the tornado potential starts to increase. Then it starts to go up even more. And then look at this, the maximum peak time going to be between 5 o'clock in the evening until about 8 o'clock in the evening, with the most likely peak between 6 to 7. This was updated, by the way, at about 4:25. Then you're going to see here the wind threat as that starts cranking up to almost 20%. And then it starts dropping down as we get into the evening. Now, I personally think there might be an additional wind threat from that line coming through that the models aren't really predicting very well. And this, by the way, is for Fort Smith. We'll show you Fayetteville in just a bit. Here's a look at what we've got in terms of the activity that's the hail threat. And the hail, as you can see, is the predominant threat. Now, there's three things I want to tell you about. Number one, there's a window, a timing window. So that shows you how storms could happen at any time because you don't know exactly when the storm is going to move over your area or if there's going to be storms in your area. Another thing is you can see the intensity level on the side. So this isn't off the charts, but it is in the medium range of the intensity. Now, keep in mind, tomorrow there's going to be an update, which is right about midnight, and we will wait and see when that update comes out. You can see where the categorical risk falls in line. So the level 3 for tornado, level 3 for hail. So this is an enhanced risk-driven tornado and hail threat Wind threat, though, is more of a level 2. So that's Fort Smith. Here's Fayetteville. Watch the shift. Just a slight shift, as you can see it kind of moving across the area. So that's what we're going to see as it shifts eastward. That means the wind threat going to be a little later as the line comes through. Because if you think about it, the storms are moving from southwest to northeast. Those are going to be moving in. Now, this isn't a perfect example of what to expect, but it does give you a little bit of an idea. So that's what we're going to be watching. I'm going to bring up something here real quick. So we're going to go to CWA. We're going to go to, I'm going to hit on this, TSA. Oops, stand by. Hold on. Can't type. Come on. I tried to do this behind the scenes. Nope. Okay. We'll close that out. We'll go back to here. I'll bring that up later. But anyways, that gives you an idea on that timing. Okay. So that's enough of that. I think we've had enough entries. Let's see. Oh, yeah, 135 entries. You ready to do the weather call giveaway? Let's do that, and then we're going to look at the actual environment. All right. So I was right, Denton. I said over 100 miles, statute miles ahead of time, and then I changed my mind, and then I was wrong. So, yeah, over 100 miles, 20 degrees is an axis or gradient. So thank you so much about that. All right. Here we go. We're going to bring up, take that down off of here. So there you go. Weather call in the comments. We got that. Here we go. It's time to do our giveaway. So we got 138 entries. I will wait just a few more seconds for the last people to jump in. Hashtag weather call. We'll get you a weather call subscription. The person that won last night, too, I've not been able to contact, but they may have contacted me. I've just been super slammed, obviously. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1, let's see who wins. And Brady Brooks. How about that? Very cool. Brady, congratulations. Definitely know how to get a hold of you. And by the way, got to do a little sound effects here. So we're going to go with a congratulations. Good job. All right. So I know some of you might be feeling this way right about now. You're feeling this way. Going to be rolling in tomorrow night, and I know you're probably a little concerned. So the weather call giveaway is over. Anybody else that didn't win, just do hashtag weather call, and then maybe for a next time. But what I'm saying is you can sign up. For those that are just joining on, in case you don't know, here is the QR code. The reason I'm talking about this so much is there's going to be more severe weather too next Tuesday, and this is the perfect time to get ready for it, set up. So this is when you're going to be watching what's going on. So because you won't have to worry about keeping up with the weather. We'll keep up with it for you. That's right. You won't have to be concerned about it. So, all right, guys, let's dive into what we've got cooking for tomorrow. So first of all, big time energy is going to be moving in. In fact, the energy that provided the storms out in Oklahoma today, that was actually some pretty intense energy. Wow, it actually went black. That was cool. That is a good question. If you can verify that you're signed up. So you do have to go to your username and login. When you sign up, you get a username and password. If you go to that, that'll let you know if you're signed up. If you don't have that, you can send an email. Yeah, don't do hashtag weather call anymore. It's over, and we did the giveaway. So congratulations to everyone that did that. But you should be able to know. All right, there's the powerful storm system that arrives. And we're going to look at the shear, Brady. You got it. Absolutely. Looks very impressive. I know, prefer daytime storms, nighttime storms. Put the QR code up. I did. We got that. You're all set. There's a storm system that arrives, and then look at this here. So we're gonna detail some of the information with this storm coming in. So first of all, here's this subtle energy. Look at that. Guess where that came from? Baja. Guess which models didn't have the storms? The HRRR. In fact, there were not many storms forecasted in northern Oklahoma today, and look at, they had all sorts of tornadoes. We got more energy diving in, and then this system ends up becoming Tuesday's system as it kind of cranks up across the area. So let's look at the latest severe weather risk. This is going to change very, very, very shortly in about maybe 30 minutes or so. And this is the enhanced risk. Now, we had questions about why this risk has shifted east so much. I personally believe, one, the system's a little faster. Number two, the energy is stronger. And three, I think it has a lot to do with the dry air and the fire danger that's off to the west. This is going to kick the dry line east, and it will develop storms a lot farther east than what was initially thought. And I actually talked about that earlier, if you remember, how this severe weather season could be pretty active if that dry line mixes east really rapidly, which happens, by the way, in drought conditions. So here's a look at the timing of the storms. Late afternoon, evening. We already showed you the individual threats and timing. Damaging winds, large hail, and the potential for strong tornadoes, all within that hatched area. If we look at the individual threats, you're going to notice, once again, we have that hashtag, not the hashtag, but the hatched area, too many hatches. That is for a few strong EF2 tornadoes. Notice that's pretty much our entire weather coverage. In fact, it is the entire weather coverage area. And the 10%, that doesn't look very high. However, that is high when you're talking about tornado climatology. Large hail over 2 inches in diameter, which is hen egg size. That, by the way, is 30%. So you have a little bit of greater probability with hail instead of tornadoes. And then you've got damaging wind potential. Now, personally, I think one of the biggest updates to the outlook is going to be that damaging wind threat kind of shifting south a little bit. We got Davion on here. Let's see. I just saw him. Let's see. Someone said, hey, Davion. But I don't see Davion. Oh, there he is right there. Baja Blast drinks needed tomorrow. And a shout out, by the way, to Leslie and to Davion, to our production team and our producers. We all did a little severe weather run through tonight while those storms were cranking up. This is actually a really good question, John. The one that says, I'm trying to say your name. I don't know if I've ever seen that first name before. I'm not even going to attempt it. But anyways, when it says EF2 plus, that means it could be greater than EF2. Yes, but the main consolidation of the strength of the tornadoes is typically EF2. I'm trying to think of the word. But when you have basically most of them are happening in that EF2 range, but the plus means they could be stronger. And sometimes they're weaker too. I think an upgrade to a moderate is going to be a good possibility. I do not doubt that. Oh, okay. I was going to say that was a kind of a tough forecast. Boy, that was a glitch right there. Going back to this graphic here, so there's the damaging winds, large hail, tornado potential. Here is the latest computer models. Now, first of all, I think the HRRR has been very awful in temperature forecasting. So we're talking about not the best in terms of predicting temperatures. That is a huge thing because that's going to play a role in how strong the storms are tomorrow, because if the temperatures are underdone, then the instability won't be as great, or at least as great as predicted. And then that way the storms are going to be weaker. So here's a look at some energy moving in that could, in fact, bring some thunderstorms initially. Now, there's a lot of things. There are failure modes. There's always failure modes to a system, such as, let's say the storm brings a lot of storms ahead of time and it cools us off. That typically happens in Northwest Arkansas. And if that does happen, then we won't see the storms as bad because we'll cool things off. The instability will be less. And so That's what you got. But watch this as we go into the evening. So I'm going to step through this a little bit slower. This was for newscast purposes. So look at all these storms that are off to the west, and this is again for Friday evening at 6:30. So they don't look like much, right? They just look like little blips on the radar screen. And that's a pretty strong storm in the River Valley, but also at the same time, some strong storms in northwest Arkansas. And then look, the storms continue into the evening. So we've got multiple chances for showers and storms. And then finally, now the HRRR is developing a line of storms that's off to the northwest. Honestly, this really does remind me of a March 12th, 2006 event, only a little bit farther south. If you remember March 12, 2006, there was only one supercell, kind of like one supercell to remember May 26, 2024. You have that area right there that line could develop. This happened on that night. There was supercells, and then the cold front moved in, and this brought even tornado warnings, even though nothing touched down. And then that system moves out, and look, additional rain is going to be possible as the energy finally swings through the area. Now, this is what's concerning. The significant tornado potential. And I got to go back in time. And if you've watched me do live streams before, I filter this out. This is a very low, essentially, where, even if it's showing up, it doesn't really show up on our end because it shows up everywhere. And we'll look at some models, but watch what happens when this low-level jet kicks in and the low-level shear really starts to crank up. So I'm going to step through this kind of slowly. Look at that as we get into 6, 7 o'clock at night. I know, 6, 7. It's always right around 6, 7. But there you go. A lot of storms that could develop. And look at the significant tornado threat just to our west, which is where the cells are expected to be. Then it kind of translates and moves eastward right over northwest Arkansas in the River Valley. And so that is going to be late tomorrow night and into the early morning hours. And there you see those tornado risks kind of dropping off. So, that's pretty concerning. The environment is going to be there. I did, unfortunately. I've said it a few times too, because the timing is 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. When you're trying to make the timing a little quicker, that's what you say. So, Let's dive into some of the model data, shall we? And some of the, it definitely has picked up from the previous runs. Yep, that's low-level helicity too. We can look at some of those computer models as we share that information. So I'm going to do that on a different screen. Yep, it did make it absolutely dynamic. In fact, check this out. I got a really cool graphic here that I want to share. Couple of them actually. So we've got this hodograph analysis tool. Let me bring this up on Weather 1. Here we go. So stand by, it's about to change. This is our hodograph analysis tool, and that is a very impressive critical angle. I know, Daniel, I've been thinking about that every time I see Grove, man. We will get a WeatherBug Network camera in Delaware County one of these days, and we need to do it pretty fast. But anyways, this is a look at that critical angle right here, and it was nearly 90 degrees, and that is a really impressive shear that's expected for that storm. So that is something we're going to watch. And then let's take a look at this. This is the HRRR. I want to show you this because you notice Oklahoma, and we're looking back at the 18Z from yesterday. Okay, yesterday, and here you're going to see as we move along in time. Here is Wednesday night. Okay, here's Thursday. And look, there's the cells out in Texas Panhandle. So it did not do a bad job there. But notice no storms where there were considerable tornadoes. So when people ask about timing, not just in a little bit. Yeah, in a little bit. When you notice timing on these cells, you're going to see it not perfect. The model's not perfect at all because at this point there were tornado warnings that were moving towards the radar at Vance Air Force Base. So that's the 18Z. Okay, well, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. That's still quite a ways ahead of the storm. Let's do 24 hours out ahead of the storm. And here you're going to see again the HRRR showing, yes, it had the activity and it nailed that in southeast Texas Panhandle and southwest Oklahoma. But guess what it didn't do? It didn't do that supercell that was in north central Oklahoma. So when we're talking about less coverage, that's an example of the model failing. Okay? Failing. And so what that means is you can't look at composite reflectivity on future radar and say, oh, there's no storm, so I don't have to worry. And we can't say, hey, there's no problems with storms at this time because there's not any, and so the timing doesn't matter. That's why we give a window. And that's why if you see kind of these little trends right here, but they don't take off, it's a signal that the environment could do something. So with that being said, why don't we look at the latest HRRR that's only going to go out to 2 p.m., and you'll notice some isolated cells trying to develop. So let's go back to our area. Let's go to a regional look, and then we're going to check out some models on pivotal weather. Pivotal weather is good, and we'll look at some other stuff here, but so that doesn't go out far enough, and that really kind of keeps those storms at bay. So let's look at some other severe weather parameters. So here you go. Looking like supercells. That's definitely supercells. And let's zoom in a little bit more so we can get Arkansas and get a good view of Arkansas. And there you go. Some storms already popping up potentially in the early afternoon hours. And then late evening, I mean, look at that. That's a supercell right there at 7 p.m. So let's go back a little bit in time. Let's look at the hodograph for Fayetteville and see what we've got. So you notice, number one, it's not warm enough. It's got this cool air because of these showers and storms popping up. So this is called convective contamination on the computer model. So that's not a perfect example of what's going to happen. If we go back in time a little bit, let's see what it looks like at 3 p.m. when it's not convectively contaminated. You can see the LCL and LSC is very low. You also have very good instability and good shear. So all of that will combine for the possible hazard type of a tornado, as you can see on the, oh, you can't actually see that. Stand by. I'm going to adjust this here real quick. By the way, the tornado that was in south and northwest Oklahoma has now transitioned into southern Kansas. Okay, let's go here. Let's go to size. Let's go to turn to original aspect, and let's get the photograph here. Okay. Go back here, load that up. So going to be a busy one for sure, because, you know, the models are showing storms, and yet they're really not even like doing that well today. So there's a look at the possible hazard type right there underneath the camera. It shows TOR. I'm going to take the camera off the screen so you can see all this stuff a lot better. That's what's blocking it. So let's look at some parameters here. Let's go to in severe weather mode. And this is a little bit closer up, but we're going to look at reflectivity. We already looked at that, and updraft helicity. So where is there going to be updraft helicity tracks? Yeah, you can definitely see some of that. Let's look at the updraft helicity. Probably going to be a bunch of those tracks over the area. And doesn't really show as much. Shows a little bit down in LaFleur County, but that's because it's just not sampling the temperatures in the environment properly. So in my opinion, we got to zoom out a little bit in order to really dive into all the other parameters, because that's only for close up. So let's look at mostly unstable CAPE, instability, if you will. And yeah, that's plenty of instability, but look at how it takes it out. It's taking it out because of the additional storm. So why don't we look at 0 to 3 kilometer CAPE, which is basically where the low-level rotation will be. And see, look at that, it's off to the west. This is QLCS tornado potential. So if we click on this, the veering profile probably won't be as good but it does have a lot more low-level instability. So we could be looking at QLCS tornado potential. Let's look at the SIG-TOR here, because that did start to ramp up, as you saw with what we have. And let's take a look at about right here, a 2.5, 2.6. We'll look at a 3.0. It's got a marginal tornado just because of the thermodynamic profile. So that's one model. Okay, let's look at the ARW, which did a better job of what we had for today. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't think they're going to go moderate. Looking at the models, just because it's showing all those storms, I don't think they go moderate. It's too much uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty how fast storms will develop. That barely shows any instability at all. We look at the NAM. That shows it all to the west. So looks like models are really struggling once again. Let's look at the RRFS, because this did a little bit better. See, it's breaking out all this convection, which is going to be a possibility essentially to the west. So maybe there's a chance that this kind of comes through with very little fanfare. There's a lot of failure modes in this type of storm. Yeah, see, look at that. So there is significant tornado parameter. You can actually see where the supercell takes over and blows up and then forms additional showers and storms. And so all this, that's just way too much thunderstorm activity. So I don't know. I don't believe it. I don't like models. Models kind of suck, to be honest with you. They sucked in north central Oklahoma. They're not going to be great for this system that happened with all the energy coming in. They're probably going to break out storms everywhere, and sometimes they do that. And so I don't really care for it, to be honest with you. So, yeah, we'll just wait and see what they've got for the new convective outlook. I'll let you know when that immediately gets happening. Let's take a look here. Okay, so here's a good question. I wonder if some right turners, especially if the winds are backing in from the south-southeast and we get storm motions to the east. So here's the deal. If we have backing winds and you get a right turner, that means you actually need more of northwest motion or northeast motion instead of a right turner, because your critical angle will be less than 90. So you actually have to have, if it's a southeast wind, you want a northeast storm motion. It depends on the low level shear, but typically that's what happens. With technology, why do they struggle? Great question. And this is going to sum it up right here. Weather balloons are the most important thing that we have in our atmosphere that samples the atmosphere, along with airplanes. Airplanes has ACARS that flies in and they measure like basically the atmospheric profile, but it's more on a slant. It's on a slope instead of a weather balloon that goes up. So this is the reason that technology struggles so much, and it's because of this. There's all this energy that's coming in from Baja. Well, guess what? Our upper air sounding network, which has been limited and reduced, by the way, already from some of the budget cuts that happened last year, and some places are only releasing weather balloons once a day instead of twice a day, unless they rectified that and changed that. But here's this energy that comes in, and notice where it's coming from. It's coming from Baja, California. This is why we call it the Baja Blast. It's right here. Models are picking up on this maybe and this, but they're not picking up on all that additional energy. And so as it moves in, that little, you can see it right there. There's a little subtle shortwave. And all it takes is a little upper level support, and you get explosive thunderstorm development, which is exactly what occurred. And because there's so much energy, there's additional storms that pop up. So the models don't get that. They don't analyze all of this energy coming in. And guess what? They still have more upper level energy and upper level support. So all of that is continuing to develop. Here's the upper level spin that's off to the west. And then this is the system that ends up becoming on Tuesday of next week, which we aren't even really honestly going to cover. There's just way too much going on. But I do want to take you through the vorticity loop and show you the amount of spin in the atmosphere, which will give you an indication as to what this storm is going to do. So let me bring this up here. Model graphics. Where is, oh, I'm on data sets. Stand by and I'll load this up here real quick and you'll get to see it. I was like, where in the world is this? Okay, two different models. And we always look at this because this is called vorticity. And vorticity is the amount of spin in the atmosphere. And here, look at all these little disturbances. So we're going back. I got to put pause points in this in order to pick them out. So let me go right here. Oh, I got to load it up in here too. All right, hold on just a second. Gonna have to reboot this computer again. But here's a look at the energy that's moving in, and put a pause point on that so you can see all these little subtle disturbances. This is what caused the tornadoes. It's not big. It's not the main energy, and it's way out ahead of it. So you can see it actually moving through. Well, some models, especially high-resolution models, even low-resolution models, don't get this energy properly. Let's see what's happening as we go into our Friday. Notice all that. That could form over in Oklahoma and Arkansas. That could form additional thunderstorms, and that might be why the models are trying to break out a bunch of storms. But then again, they also don't allow to sample the cap very well. So there's just all of these struggles. Remember that system that was diving in? Look at how it cuts off, it rears up, and then it moves eastward. Now, this is a lot of energy on Tuesday of next week, which is why there, in fact, is a severe weather risk for next Tuesday. And check this out. Tornado confirmed again. These storms are still cranking. The environment is impressive, and the models didn't have a clue on that at all. So, and then once that moves out, then we'll finally start to quiet down somewhat. All right, we're getting close. Let me see if the new outlook. Okay, they issued the thunderstorm outlook, the 60s thunderstorm outlook, which means that the Storm Prediction Center risk is right around the corner. Exactly. It's not the healthiest, that's for sure. Okay, so now if you're new to this stream and you're just joining on, let me kind of show you some of the features that we have with our weather streaming mode, if you will. So what this is going to do is this allows us to show the weather graphics. We can have QR codes up. At the same time, we can have warning information pop up, and this could be interchangeable, and kind of moved around. So if you haven't had the ability to sign up for Weather Call, scan that QR code or take a picture of that, and that will give you the latest information. We have a lot of stuff that we can show while we're in the middle of our stream. So, and it's actually $12 a year. We took it down now, $3. But if you want lightning data, that is a little bit extra. So let's go ahead and let's look at some of the comments on here, okay? Anvil seeding can cause storms to be less intense as well. Absolutely. What that means is you have thunderstorms that are to the southwest that come in, cool the updraft aloft, kind of choke it off, and anvil seeding can cause the storms to be less intense. So great advice on that. Also, too, the anvil can provide a baroclinicity zone, which is basically a spin on the differentiation between the sunlit side and the shadow side, and that also can create quite a bit of basically a boundary potentially. So we have a funeral in Springdale that's going to end probably around 11:30 and won't be home until 12:30. So that's in the late morning. Yes, I think you'll be absolutely fine. No problem there. That's a great question. If you don't want storms, which who does want these bad storms, and I know what's going to happen. If this absolutely does end up being a big bust, number one, all the people on social media will be like, I told you. And, it's just like, whatever, man. All these youngins that, just basically think they know everything about weather known to man. I'm learning something new every day, man. I don't know it all. What I do know, I'm telling you about, but you'll never know everything about the weather, to be honest with you. But there will be chances. There are failure modes that can prevent the storms from happening all we're telling you is what the potential is there for these storms. No sleep tomorrow night. It is going to be a pretty long one, especially in the early morning hours. The SIGTOR did pick up, but it didn't look the same as some of the other models that I've seen, so we might have to adjust that. If it does get moderate, where do you think they would put it? Probably northeast Oklahoma, where the storms initially develop. You can see the low-level clouds almost screaming to the north. I bet. Let's check out some cameras while we're waiting for that risk to come out. So here's our Posey Mountain WeatherBug Network camera. And yeah, you can see those clouds moving. Now, this is a slower camera. Let's look at Kisser FM. And you can see, yeah, definitely those clouds are moving quick. Gaither Mountain went down, unfortunately. Here's the Huntsville Airport. It's kind of tilted up a little bit. Tornado Hot Rogers indicator. I don't know that. Jesse Bennett says hi. We got her set up on exactly where the lightning was last night into this morning. It says, are your graphics available anywhere? My kids and I love talking weather, and they are so good and easy to understand. Yes, those graphics are available, and they're on our weather blog. So let me show you how to get to the weather blog here. I'm going to bring up this window full so you can get to see it. Stand by here. We're going to load up a window. So this is this right here is our weather blog. And if you go to weather and then go down here to weather blog, that'll tell you all of the information on our website. So knwa.com. Here's all the graphics. Now remember, all these are going to be updated here very soon as the new risk comes out. And as soon as it does, we'll let you know about it. And it'll actually hit us before it hits the Storm Prediction Center. But there's a look at the tornado potential. We talk about this. And if you want to learn more about this and how these hatched areas and all that stuff works, well, we already did a Storm Prediction Center to implement the changes. It's right here 1 week ago. We actually published it February 13th, updated it recently. It talks about all those changes and all the SIGs and all that stuff and the tornado intensity distribution. That's the word I was looking for. Make sure that that's in here. Yes, it is. So the distribution on that will show you essentially where those tornadoes are typically grouped. Notice how, though, SIG less than SIG 1, you can still get potentially an EF3, but it's 1%. And this is a large distribution, by the way. They did a large number of tornado case studies. And when you start getting up into SIG 2, you see the distribution of EF3 tornadoes is greater. So that's how basically it's an EF2 plus. And then you scroll down here, you get more additional information. And so that's all when you go to weather. You go to weather blog. If you want to watch our live stream, it's right here. And you're going to see exactly what we're streaming here. But keep in mind, this might be a little delayed. So if I hit play, you'll probably hear the audio of this, and it'll be a huge feedback. But in the meantime, we'll let that play. See, there's definitely a delay to this. So keep that in mind. That's how you get to the live stream. Going back to the weather blog, that gives you all of the information. And then, of course, on the homepage. Now, I will say this is exciting. 479 First. So 479 First right now is our streaming platform where you can watch our weather coverage, and you can also watch basically programming, also all of our newscasts. So there you can see right there, Trey Dare, and they're talking with Peyton Hillis. So that's 479 First. Well, now we have the ability to basically stream our severe weather coverage on 479 First. And you don't even have to, and we can interrupt that, and we can show exactly what we're showing on this computer in your stream and put that on 479 First. So there's all sorts of things that we can do. All right. We are all TBH. I started my storm anxiety bad. We don't need a repeat of the Memorial Day weekend. Now, remember, Memorial Day weekend, that was EF3. But, here's the thing. Like, that happened. This hasn't happened yet. So here's what Davion says. I lean both towards QLCS event after the supercells move through. But honestly, there are failure modes, and I don't think they are going to go moderate. Looking at the latest models, looking at the latest information, I don't think they do. Here's what we're going to do. We're getting close to the time. We are going to bring up Max 1, and I'm going to bring up the Storm Prediction Center risk, okay? And we'll look at the actual risk. And as soon as this updates, it will update in real time. So let's wait for it, and we'll just have this on in the background, and we'll get to see it update right before our eyes as it happens. So as of now, obviously no thunderstorms, severe weather. For us, it's all off to the west. In the meantime, we'll still ask some more questions. I've seen a storm go from congestive cumulus, so cumulus congestus, to a tower, full-blown supercell in around 30 minutes time. Yep. I'm so ready. It's too early. That's why you need to get prepared now. Wishing I wasn't on a second floor when days come around like this. That's a great point, because you do have to. Pray for a cap. There's definitely a cap that could happen. Cap could be stronger. Can you look at Southwest Missouri for tomorrow? You'll see that. We'll look at that in just a bit. Now is a good time to make friends with the neighbors downstairs. You got it. Models equal toilets. It does. And people put way too much emphasis and basically confidence in this. Pam, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Just want to keep you updated with everything. Yeah, my wife and I are going to have a fun Saturday night together. So we'll get through this storm. We'll get you through this storm, and then we're going to have a little time alone. If it does go moderate, where do you think it would be, Patrick? We mentioned that. That's going to be in northeast Oklahoma if it does go moderate. That's where the storms initially develop, and maybe even southwest Missouri. See, a lot of times that energy could be stronger, just like what happened in northwest Oklahoma. By the way, they really nailed that. If you're just tuning in, look, they had the hatched area, and they had it north of the 10%, which is something they couldn't do before, and that's exactly where the tornadoes were. Carrie, we'll get you through it, I promise. Believe me, we live for this stuff. When the tornadoes happen, there's nobody more serious than, and I know all the other meteorologists are as well, but I love the way that we can show the products on the radar. That is such a game changer. It really is. What's not a game changer is my voice. I mean, I might not have a voice by tomorrow. Looks like an avocado, doesn't it? Everybody loves the avocado colors. Tense rotation on the Kansas tornado. Yeah, we were watching that. Ooh, we should do the 8-ball. Drum rolls? Let's do it. Let's do the 8-ball. Let's let that risk update in real time. They might wait right until midnight, honestly. Speaking of drum roll. I love sound effects. I'll be right back. I'm going to get the 8-ball out. We put them away for a while. Sent them home. Wonder where it is. 8-ball went to bed. Aha. This is what we need, and I forgot about this. Maybe Josh took it. I don't know. The 8-ball hid. Come on, 8-ball. Where are you? Here, 8-ball, 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 8-ball. I don't know. Okay, hold on just a second here. Where are you? Found it. Yeah, get out of here. Well, that was fun to watch, wasn't it? So we got the 8 ball, but honestly, this is probably going to sum up tomorrow. Angry cloud. Let's keep going here. Let's look at this. Odds of this shifting, always a possibility. How does the drought look? Really non-relevant because of all the rain we saw yesterday and last night was not included in the drought monitor. But if you want to know, we'll show you here. I've got it loaded up. And we could bring it up. It's no different. This is what happened 1 week ago to this week. They basically didn't change it at all. And that makes sense. In fact, they actually made it worse in central Arkansas. Let me take the camera off the screen so you can see. There you go. No difference. Hot and honey tea for your voice. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, found it. I know. I had to dig for it. I think it was hiding. Tornado in Bentonville tomorrow. Woof, that's a very distinct question. I think we can ask it, though. Let's see what happens. Again, we're going to load that up. That day one outlook. We're getting close. We're about 5 minutes away from when it should be out, but it might take a little longer on this one. So here we go. The angry cloud. Angry cloud can ask the 8-ball. It's like playing with toys here. All right, 8-ball, here we go. You haven't brought you out in a while. How have you been? Hopefully you've been enjoying that long rest as we've had quiet weather. Can you tell me what are the chances of a tornado in Bentonville tomorrow? It says signs point to yes. No, boy. Yep. SPC did mention tomorrow as most guidance. Did they update the risk? I don't see it yet. But I believe that bimodal means you got supercells, you got multicells, you got clusters, and then, and by the way, just to let you know, I hate to say this, Amanda, Colby Ward is not here tomorrow. He's out. He's not here. So there's no, So there's no Colby effect. Tornado outbreak? Let's see. Will there be a tornado outbreak over our weather coverage area tomorrow? It is decidedly so. I think that's what that says. I don't even know, honestly. My eyes are so shot. Yep, it is decidedly so. That's what it said. Oh, boy. I don't think there's thunder now. Burn the 8-ball. I still think they go enhanced. I got all the ties ready. You're right. I got them all. 8-ball ain't messing around, man. What other question do we have here? Will there be an EF2 tornado tomorrow in our weather coverage area? Most likely. Man, I'm not lying. Most likely. It could be Hook Echo tie tomorrow. Kill the 8-ball. Everybody loved the 8-ball. I don't think we should ask it any more questions. Oh, I got one. Will there be a PDS tornado watch tomorrow? Will there be a PDS tornado watch? And okay, it says it is certain, but I don't know. I think this thing might be broken. Think better wake it up here. I don't know if it's just stuck on all those answers. I'm going to make sure that this thing is. Ask again later. All right, I shook it up a little bit. That risk is coming out shortly. So let's go over some things that you need to know about. Number one, PDS stands for particularly dangerous situation. That's true, but we all kind of do the sleeves, and because you got to get ready to get to work. So I've got severe weather shoes that I'm going to be wearing tomorrow, and not just the foam posits. I got some dress severe weather shoes that I bought. I've got the radar socks. I think we're going to be wearing all of it. Yeah, the midnight update's coming very soon. It's 12 o'clock. Hasn't happened yet. Updates should be changing very, very shortly. Let's make sure that it didn't update while I'm snoozing here. Nope. Day 2 risk, that's the current risk for the day 2 outlook. And we'll see what happens when this updates. So we should be right there. I could have that hook echo tie tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. It just all depends on storm mode. Storm mode is going to be key, but models are struggling with that. They break out a lot of storms elsewhere, which cools the temperatures off, and then that creates a little less favorability for severe weather and tornadoes, which is a great thing because there's a huge gymnastics meet. There's a party that's happening for a dial-up at George's Majestic Lounge. I love a big party. Let me see if I can find that. Might need a Baja Blast. Ooh, they're taking a long time with this update. Typically, they issue this. They've been doing it around 11:15, 11:20, and they're not doing it early this time. They're thinking about it. Well, they're also real busy with other stuff, so still not updated yet. Spamming the refresh button. I'd love to know how fast this updates compared to when it actually comes out. They did a really good job today, though. Super impressed. I'll tell you what, while we're waiting, you want to geek out a little bit more? I've got another graphic that I want to show you here. Come on, load up. This is pretty cool. So this is the shear with this supercell today while it was producing a significant tornado. So as you can see, we will zoom in a little bit more on that so you can see that a little better. There you go. So what you're seeing right here, as I point out some things, number one, this is the hodograph, and this is the amount of storm relative velocity. 0 to 3 kilometers storm relative velocity was 552. That is up there. The 0 to 500 meter storm relative velocity was 350. So this storm had every bit of streamwise vorticity coming into it. Very favorable hodograph for tornado potential. And if you look at the Bunkers right mover, mostly unstable cape, the significant tornado parameter, it didn't really measure that, but very, very impressive storm. Effective storm relative velocity was 301. So some incredible speed shear as well. And yeah, very, very impressive storm mode with that. All right, let's go back to Max 1 and looking at the risk on the day one. 1205. The anticipation is killing me. Yeah, you got the. I hear the heartbeat going. Wait a minute. Nothing so far. Yeah, it's not the Tulsa Weather Service that does this. This is the Storm Prediction Center, the best of the best in forecasting severe weather. And I don't normally stay up for risks, but for this one, I'm doing it. About some other sound effects. You know, they say a tornado sounds like a train. So maybe we have that coming. Yeah, I think they're going to keep it enhanced. Cue the Jeopardy music. Yeah, we should do that. We get copyrighted in like 10 seconds, Davion. Good point on this. Don't rely on outdoor sirens. Man, I'll know as soon as I see the tweet go out, or X. That's probably the fastest out of everything when X goes out and says that they updated. I wonder how many people are spamming. Yeah, hen egg size hail, hen egg size hail, hen egg size hail. I could say that. What I can't say is specificity. Specificity. I think a lot, actually. There's typically one person on the staff. Yeah, how about that for a hodograph, man? That was a crazy one for sure. I hear a train a coming around the bend, and I ain't seen the sun shining since God knows when. No sirens in Bella Vista. New tornado warning for Kansas. I'm seeing that. That storm is going nuts. Right now it's over Mayfield, too. Man, I got a story there. Mayfield, Udall. I'm going to bring that up here real quick. We're still waiting. That's a good question. 8-ball. Will the Heavenly Father above, the Lord, allow these storms to pass through peacefully tomorrow and not bring us any severe weather? And its answer is ask again later. I think it went back asleep. I think it chose violence and then it just went to bed. All right, we'll ask again later. Oh, that's a good one too. Long black train. Like 1,000 people on waiting for this outlook, and we're all waiting. So they could go moderate. I don't think they will. Here's what I think personally before they issue it. Let's see how good I am on drawing this. This is what I would do. All right. So first of all, the slight, I'd have the slight basically all the way out here. I would take the enhanced Oh, there it is. Oh, I almost nailed it perfectly. I'd take the enhanced, put it right over Northwest Arkansas. Man, I almost drew that slight to the T, but I didn't get finished. All right, so the new outlook's out. There it is. We'll read the discussion. It really didn't change much from the day two. Let's see. I could go back and forth and show you. So this is the day one, and this is the day two. No change, except expanding the enhanced all the way into north central Texas. Tornado potential still on the table, and we are smack dab in it. There's the old tornado potential. There's the new. So it really did not change at all. Next, you got the day one hail and the day two hail. So the day one hail has shifted westward. Now, here's where I think things get interesting. I predict that wind threat to extend farther southwest than it did before. So there's the old wind threat, and there's the new wind threat. So they did extend it southwest, but they do not have the hatched area for significant wind. So they do expect that line to develop. All right, now that we've seen that, and we'll go back one more time to the risk. So really not much of a change, except that's a large area for tornado potential. So let's look at the discussion here. Once this updates, I will read it with you. Okay. There's an enhanced risk of severe storms. So here's the information. Scattered severe thunderstorms are expected from late afternoon through tonight for parts of southern Great Plains to the Midwest. The greatest potential for a couple strong tornadoes and isolated hail, very large hail, is in eastern portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, and western portions of Arkansas and Missouri. An upper wave with a broader positive tilt trough will eject out of Colorado and into the northern plains late today with a 70-knot mid-level jet moving across New Mexico and Kansas into Iowa and Minnesota late. South of this jet, high tendencies will be relatively neutral, with falls generally from Kansas northward late in the day. That's going to prevent a lot of other thunderstorms from developing. At the surface, a cold front will push to southern Minnesota, and we know that. Meanwhile, a warm front will rapidly push northward. We're not really worried about the warm front, all that stuff. Here's South Great Plains to the Midwest. A complex forecast scenario will exist today with multiple areas of severe potential, some highly conditional, meaning they may or may not happen. Large-scale ascent to be most favorable from the surface low in Kansas northeastward along the cold front, which is what we talked about. However, and along portions of the warm front from Iowa eastward. Bouts of thunderstorms are probable across Iowa and vicinity with both Boeing structures and supercells. Okay, here's what we're focused on. Another focused area of potential will be from northern Texas into eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and southwest Missouri, while increasing deep moisture to 700 millibars and daytime heating well east of the dry line. Yep, stand by here. Okay. Well east of the dry line may yield a zone of tornado potential. Mid-60s dew points suggest in southwest 850 millibar winds, 50 knots, and effective storm relativisticity suggest any storms that form within this zone may have tornado potential. But a more conditional risk of supercells, including tornadoes and very large hail, will exist along the length of a dry line from south central Kansas along portions of Oklahoma into western North Texas. Here, models are having difficulty producing precipitation with relatively stationary dry line and a wave passing well to the north. However, strong heating west of the dry line will occur with at least a narrow zone of isolated supercell potential will develop perhaps after full days heating towards 0Z. An isolated supercell or two will be possible somewhere along the dry line, assuming capping remains minimal and low-level convergence is non-zero. Very large hail as well as tornadoes are conditionally possible in this scenario. So that's why when we look at the conditional probability, it's a lot lower to the west. It's 5%, but they still have the hatched area. So the best chance for severe weather is, you guessed it, ready, right, basically over us. And for that, I say this. Because thunderstorms are literally going to erupt. And if there's a lot of storms that develop ahead of time and we don't get a lot of severe weather, there's going to be some people going, so we're going to be watching it closely. All righty, guys. That does it. I got to get to bed. I got to get some good night's sleep. I got to send this email to the news station. But we are, I'll tell you what, we're ready. I really do like this. We're fully ready. We're so prepared. I think the most prepared that we've been. We got our storm spotters ready to go. I know Josh is going to be out. Davion and Leslie are going to be here. We did some training today, kind of like doing push-ups and getting a workout in. Might just get a little run tomorrow morning to get the blood flowing and get ready for tomorrow. But we will keep you updated as to everything. Remember, we live for this stuff. We study this stuff. And I've got the Taco Bell coming, man. And I got a Coke here as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. And if someone comments, like on social media and you can respond, please do. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of the timing, but we know the timing. Get that weather call next gen. Remember, it is really, really important to have that potential, to have that peace of mind for $12 a year. It'll get you in the know if a storm is coming. Remember, it's a specific area that gets warned, not the whole county. You have to know site-specific warning information. That's the way to do it, to scan that QR code. All right, guys. God bless. Have a great night, or early morning, should I say. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll get you through this storm. I promise we will. Take care, guys, and have a good one. Thanks for watching.